the Wild West. I mean, the reports we get from partners and from people on the ground, this sense that these private armies have become very much part of the occupation and are feared in the way that the occupation is feared, and opposed in the way the occupation is opposed. And you hear so many anecdotal cases of people being hurt, attacked by these employees of these companies and not being able to do anything about it, not knowing where they'd come from, what they'd done. You also hear stories, and there are lots of books by people who've worked for these companies talking about anecdotally again what they saw on the ground or what they were involved in. The one that is most known and the one that's really put this issue on the map was, again, US company Blackwater in September last year, where essentially a massacre took place in Baghdad, and I think it was about 13 people were killed just at a crossroads. They opened fire and just killed a lot of people and injured many more. And this really did focus attention on what's happening. The one that I've been particularly interested in, particularly involved in, is the case of Erenest, the UK company, who in October 2007 opened fire on a taxi near Kirkuk. And Panorama went out there and the BBC interviewed the people involved in this case. And the taxi was driving on an empty road in the middle of nowhere that wasn't a particularly high-risk area. And they were apparently told to stop by Erenest. And the taxi driver said he hadn't seen it or whatever had happened. Basically, they shot at the taxi. And one guy has lost an eye, the other guy's lost an ear, and the third person was injured as well. And the taxi driver was a middle-aged guy. They were unarmed, they were not in a high-risk area. And Erenest hasn't done anything there's been no prosecutions, there's been no response, and there's nothing that the people can do. But when you see those sorts of cases and you actually see the interviews with the people on the ground, and you realise the level of fear they feel about these companies. There have been tens of thousands of PMSCs working in Iraq, hundreds of cases of abuses, yet not a single prosecution. And the reason for that has been, apart from the difficulty of actually pinning down what they're doing and where they're doing it and who it is, but they've also had CPA Order 17. And this was when Paul Bremer left Iraq and signed it over at the end of the Provisional Authority. He signed over Order 17, which basically said that contractors were immune from prosecution in Iraq. And there's been no prosecutions at home either. So you're in a situation where Iraqis can't do anything about it in their own country, and nothing's happening at home either, nothing's happening in the UK. So clearly there is a need to bring these companies under democratic accountability, but also more importantly to end this practice of private militaries, to end the ability of these companies to operate as they are in Iraq and Afghanistan. And as we were saying, the UK government has clearly failed to act on this. I mean, since 2002, there's been lots of internal discussions, lots of things going on, but nothing's actually happened. And you have got to a situation now where even the companies themselves are saying something should be done. There's a sense of needing to legitimise their activities. And so they are looking for some sort of regulation. Clearly they want to be able to operate in these countries and they want to be able to carry on what they're doing, but they want to do it under a legitimate umbrella. And we don't want the same thing, because we don't want a continuation of this action, but just as a legitimate action. We need proper accountability. And one of the things the government's been sort of starting to look at, and we've been saying, is that they shouldn't be allowed to operate in countries where they're going to be actually involved in conflict or conflict support like they are now. Combat support, sorry. So there is a clear distinction, a clear need for what they should do. And you have a situation now where even the Foreign Affairs Select Committee and Parliament, the UN Working Group on Mercenaries, all these people are all calling for the same thing. And it really is now about getting the government to act. Thank you very much.
I think the debate went really well. I think that up until a certain point when a student said quite explicitly, you seem to be singing from the same songbook. And actually, I think Ruth was being really quite kind to Chris in that she didn't expose which companies he was working for, 2 major oil companies in Iraq. So I think that the debate went really well, based primarily on the students, actually, and their interaction with the 2 speakers and you know, picking their arguments apart. I think it went really well. Basically, we've got quite a lot of interest in the campaign group afterwards as well, and hopefully some of the calls for the UK to implement tougher regulation, primarily to David Miliband and people like that, hopefully those calls were actually listened to.